Hey everybody, this is Steve of Thousand Year Home. So let's see, I signed a house on the 17th of January. So 20th of February right now, right? 4 weeks or so worth of work. So as you all know, I'm on a quick burn down here to get this thing built. And I want it to last 1,000 years. So earlier this week we brought out a couple of these 8,400 pound 40-foot high cubes. Now I'm going to attempt to raise one of these today using a floor jack. Now I've got a 4-ton floor jack. Let me turn the camera around so you can see it. I got a 4-ton floor jack, and the goal is to dig that out a little bit so I can get the floor jack under there and see if I could pick up one end and then the other end of this cube. Now this one went the worst. I've filled in a lot of the holes, but the guy sunk up to his axles, dropping this one off, so it's all the way down. These 4x4s didn't stand a chance. Home Depot didn't. I gave up on Home Depot, everybody. Didn't make the delivery. Didn't make the delivery this week. 2 weeks of no deliveries. And so I broke down and got myself set up with Lowe's. So, but tell you, maybe between Home Depot, Lowe's, and the local lumber yard, I can keep moving. But somewhere out in the big world is an order that I need for all the foundation work. But anyway, I didn't have my railroad ties, so these things went down on the ground. This one over here went better. The second one, we had a little bit of experience, and we took our time setting these pylons. But they're still, it's still missed, right? And they're still down in there. So uh, this hole here was, for example, where the wheels dropped in. You can see that it was a substantial hole. Now I'm going to break in here for just a little minute to cut to the chase. All right, so this video is supplies you'll need to bring a ConEx out. You'll hear me start complaining about Home Depot right away, because the fact of the matter is everything I needed to deliver and do a foundation and safely manage those ConExes was sitting in a Home Depot order that said next day delivery. And I had stopped at the Home Depot in order to confirm that it would be out there, and I was assured it would be. And then the Home Depot contacted me. Oh, I ordered it from the wrong Home Depot. I should have ordered it from Bastrop, and I ordered it from Hutto, and I cut them off. I said, I didn't change anything. I said, I went to your website, I selected Bastrop as my preferred store, and I ordered from there. I said, your delivery system had changed it. And anyway, long story short, I'm going to do a whole segment on how bad Home Depot is at deliveries, and Lowe's scarcely impresses me anymore. But on that delivery truck that's not out there is railroad ties, and I needed railroad ties. This is the right way to do a drop off, a rolling drop off. They have the height, the width, the girth. They could sit on the soil for a little while. In the absence of those, I already had a couple of 4x4s out there and some deck piers that I was going to do a little raised deck for myself out there while I was building. I had to use those the morning of when I found out Home Depot yet again missed a delivery, promised delivery that I had spoke to live human beings about, and they assured me that it was being built and loaded in the back. I was assured that it was being loaded, and none of that was true. None of it was true. And then the workers started scattering. But long story short, so what do you need for a ConEx delivery? Well, you'll see in here, I'm getting close, and I put together a cobbled way of doing this work. That 4-ton floor jack is a great thing, and I looked it up, and the specs are 2,200 pounds per ton. So that's 4 times, that's 8,800 pounds that floor jack will handle. Um, and since I'm lifting from one corner, right, then I'm going to guess that it's 4,000, maybe 6,000 pounds of pressure. But I was more worried about it sinking down into the ground, the floor jack itself, because that's a compressed area under the wheels. I had ended up cutting a piece of 2 by 10 or 2 by 12 that fit right underneath the floor jack. And this worked really well. And then I just raised it up 3 inches at a time. I would put blocks under it. Eventually, raised it up and then I leveled the blocks. So if you'll notice in one of the videos that I'm talking, that the ConEx is sitting buried into the sand, so the weight is shifting, and that floor jack had a tendency to want to tip. So the um, the stabilizer, getting it up and 3 inches at a time with the capstones was really a good idea. So you'll need capstones. And really, it's just the posts that you need to worry about. Although I use the middle section for reinforcement, and also if something did start sinking, I wanted it to be caught rather. So I used 6x6s. I used about 80 capstones. I would not recommend those little piers that I for making a floating deck at all. Those didn't work, but they're the only thing I had. 4x4s aren't going to work either. You need 6x6s. Railroad ties to start with, but then as you start raising it up, you'll need to make a good solid foundation and start raising it up. And once it's all the way up, then I could put in a foundation, and that'll sit for 28 days or so while the concrete cures. Ideally, you would have had your piers already done, and it's 8 foot by 40, and you would have had your specs and your piers in. But if you remember, I was buying all of this, and I had all of the demands of this purchase right in the middle of the European War caused by Putin. So the shipping containers were a mess because of everything being rerun, and the prices were going up five, six, $700,000. They're all over the place. And so I didn't panic buy. I made a logical decision to put the containers out there and then manually raise them off the ground. I wouldn't recommend it. Um, and so, as a minimum, you'll need the capstones, and the larger the better. If you can get the big, 16 by 16, do that. Um, so capstones, and then you'll need a floor jack, a 4-ton floor jack. I've seen some people use farm jacks or scissor jacks, and man, I'll tell you, it's a lot more of a hard load. And somebody once asked me, well, why didn't I use my little tractor, little front end loader with work truck? 2,000 pounds is the most it could pick up, right? That's 8,000 pounds. So I would have blown a seal on my hydraulics. But they do make cranes, and they do make fork trucks that can handle that, and they pick them up right by the middle, and they just set them where they want them. A lot of people do that, right? In other countries, in their earlier episode, I showed you that they had these roll-off trucks that just they've got the cranes on the side, and they just drop them on your pad. So if you can have the foundation work done ahead of time, you'll be miles ahead. Uh, but I didn't, and I put this out in the middle of Texas scrub brush without a decent foundation. So now I have the work of getting it up. And so here's my supplies. You'll need railroad ties. You'll need 3 for each ConEx, maybe 4. You'll need probably 40 capstones, depending on how high you want to raise the thing. A 4-ton hydraulic floor jack's just fine. You'll need to support wood underneath it. And as you raise that, I only used the floor jack 3 or 4 inches at a time. I didn't go full extended. I didn't want that instability. And so I'd raise it up 3 or 4 inches at a time, block up the end post, and then put some more blocks underneath the jack, raise it up. And I went that way very safely up. And once it was level and I found the center points, the jack did just fine. So, but man, when I've seen people use those mechanical farm jacks on other YouTube videos, it looks very dangerous. Um, and that's what you'll need to raise it up. And they also have temporary supporting posts that are made of aluminum that or steel rather that can be used temporarily underneath structures. If you're going to go high end, I saw hydraulic raisers that just bolt right into the end post, and they just pick the things up, and you could do that too. Depending on what you want to do. But this is a do-it-yourself or out in the middle of nowhere without power except for my little solar. And then a tractor is a huge benefit, especially in the mud. You'll see later on in this video that I'm using the tractor to move around all of the supplies, the capstones, the foundation, everything. Eventually, I'll need to build concrete piers. Even if I use rammed earth or aircrete or any of those things, they're not strong enough to hold up to. Well, rammed earth would be, but I'm not experienced enough with ram earth to risk that. So I'm going to use an engineered material below the soil line, which will be ready mix of some sort or another to make my foundation. But then hopefully skin coat it with rammed earth. These are the supplies that you'll need, though. You'll need your railroad ties. It'll be nice to have a fork truck or wheelbarrow or tractor in my case. The 40 to 80 capstones that you'll need, a 3-inch thick. Bigger 16 by 16s if you can get those. More stability, the better. I use 6 by 6 down the middle in 3 places, and I also brace that up just in case something got squirrely. The whole thing would be level, and I'd have extra cushion. I was a little worried about that soil being wet. So those are the supplies that'll get you by and get your ConEx up off the ground fast. I could have done it in a day. I really could have, any one of these in a day. But I did 3 or 4 inches, a couple of stones, and then I'd let it sit and level. I wasn't in a big hurry. I wanted to make sure that I went up nice and safely. So you do you, and this is how I did me. This corner's 4,000 pounds, and that corner's 4,000 pounds. And when I jack up a corner, I'm not dealing with, 6,000 pounds on a corner. I don't know. That's not true. In addition to the little floor jack, I do have 4 bottle jacks that are 12 tons each. So if I could get underneath there, I would already have the floor jacks in there, and I'd be raising it up. So I hope you enjoyed my supply video. So did you notice that little bull came back and chased me around while I was working? I had to use my tractor to run him off. So he's got something personal about me that he doesn't care for. Uh, but anyway, I did get him up off the ground. So I'll jump a few weeks ahead. I mentioned I was doing it just a little at a time. And so I'll jump to some fresh, clean day where I've got it almost to final height. I need to put a laser level on it, and I need to do some adjusting. And then I'll use the middle supports, and I'll pull the ends out, and I'll put in my frames, and I'll pour my mud in a day. And I'll also put in the tie down so that I can lock the tie the connexes to the foundation as well. But let's jump ahead and take a look at the final results of all of the supplies, and you could take a look at my configuration and adapt them. This is all temporary. I would not leave my structure like this. This is temporary for me to safely pour a footing. So I don't know if you've been following this for a little bit, you'll see that it's about 22 inches off the ground. I'm going to go ahead, go a little bit higher, and then I'll pour the foundation. Once again, Home Depot stood me up for delivery, so this will be job 1. So I'll go ahead and wrap that in rammed earth. So the rebar, since I don't have rebar, will be the container itself, and then I'll use stainless steel fasteners through it, and I'll connect that periodically to the wall as I go up. And underneath will be all of my plumbing and electrical, so it'll be fully serviceable. So I believe I can get a 1,000-year house out of this thing. So